I was the one who was doing the recording. Fuck you.
Doesn't mean I wasn't trying to mute your ass.
Whatever.
All right. So before we start the show, Graham, I need help. I'm going to make a drink. I'm going to make a martini. And you can make martini two distinct ways. Gin or vodka? The age-old question.
That is a good question. See, for me, gin is just British vodka, and vodka is just Russian gin. So,
you're wrong.
For me, it makes no difference. They taste the same.
Why.
They taste the same. They get me drunk the same. They give me the same type of hangover. So,
God damn it.
My recommendation is to just go with the flow, my man. Go with the flow.
Why you gotta be like this, man? Like, I don't give you shit. Well, yeah, I do. I do give you a lot of shit.
Oh, yeah, let's not go there, my dude. Let's not go there. You want to talk about somebody who doesn't give anybody any shits? Let's not talk about you. Okay, I give you a lot of shit. Fair. But when it comes to your weed, I only question the naming convention, but there are, I mean, would you say a sativa and indica are the same? No, take your time. No, absolutely not.
Exactly. So gin and vodka are distinctly different. Vodka is made from potatoes. Gin is made from juniper berries. Totally separate ends of the spectrum, my friend.
You're not understanding this. You're not understanding this. Sativa
I asked a simple goddamn question.
Sativa and indica are practically two different drugs.
I am too sober for this. So let's debate this after I make a drink.
All
Gin
right.
or vodka?
Fuck. Vodka. Jesus Christ.
All right. Just start the damn show and play the goddamn piano music.
Fine. Cue the music, for fuck's sake.
Segue with bitch. No, I agree with you, Graham. 13 is a weak point in the Final Fantasy series for a multitude of reasons. I kind of enjoyed it for a lot of things, but at the same time, it's just I enjoy. I mean, Final Fantasy, like saying a Final Fantasy game is bad is still saying it's a Final Fantasy game, so it's still pretty upper echelon in terms of gaming.
That's true. True.
In my mind, like, just because it's a bad Final Fantasy game, it's still Final Fantasy, which means you're going to get a thought-out story. Characters, yeah, they might be cookie-cutter, but at least they have their interactions. They do a really good job with the whole Japanese storytelling of, making sure that every character interacts with every other character and getting those dynamics mixed. And then also escalating the shit out of the story where it's like, typical JRPG style. First mission, save a cat. What are you doing by the end of the game?
Killing God. So yeah.
It is what it is at that point. So,
yeah. Anyway, you just finished watching Only Murders in the Building, didn't you?
What's it to you?
I was hoping we could talk about it because I loved that show.
You're drinking a LaCroix. God damn, you're such a. All right, yes. Let's talk about Only Murders in the Building before I murder you for drinking LaCroix.
What is your problem with LaCroix?
I don't have a problem with LaCroix. I have a problem with you drinking LaCroix on camera for a show about booze and weed and shit. And you're over here like, I'm gonna drink a seltzer water like a fancy bitch.
I gotta drink something, you asshole.
Alright, then drink something.
Do you want me to pour this out into a glass so you're not seeing the can?
Now you get it. You don't care, do you?
No. Okay. I do not.
How about you vamp for a second while I shake this drink and it's not super loud?
Alright, well, you've been watching that sounded disgusting. You've been watching some Only Murders in the Building, and I love that show. but you've been giving me some complaints as the show
guess...
goes on, and I'd love to hear now, for the first time, what you think of the first season, all in context.
First of all, this is a much better looking martini, and I am very excited for it.
Yeah. Anything that doesn't have my name on it. I get it. Looks exactly the same to me.
God damn. Yeah, so does all your weed. It's green. You smoke it.
Speaking of.
Yes, so why don't you smoke up a little bit more while I give you some thoughts on Only Murders in the Building. I think the thing... So my criticism for the show, I think, falls into a very usual spots that happens nowadays is, and there's got to be a term for it, but my drunken vodka-filled brain right now can't think of it. But it's when it's overhyped. It is a good show, well thought out, nice twists and turns. I mean, Steve Martin and Martin Short, fantastic. I mean, those are such a great duo. You can't go wrong there. And Selena Gomez, she doesn't do much for me, but whatever. She still adds a unique dynamic to the trio. She brings her own, so I'll grant her that. But like, everybody was like, "This show is fantastic. You got to check it out." And I'm watching. I'm like, "Yeah, it's good," but I just don't think it was worth quite the hype. You know what I'm saying? It got overhyped. It's one of those things where you hear all the great things about it, and then it just, oh, so this is what everybody's talking about?
That's what I feared I was going to feel about the show, but then I ended up watching it and just absolutely adoring it, so...
Now, you enjoy the antics of Steve Martin and Martin Short, I think, on a little higher level than I do.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not to say I don't like them, but I think they're much... Like, you've probably watched a lot more of that duo than I have. I've only seen one or two specials.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been another factor. And but the show for itself, I did like a lot of the red herrings that the show put out, especially with Nathan Lane and his whole character arc. I feel like that was the original story, but when they realized how good of the show they had going, they called it like an audible at the end or something.
Yeah.
Because that twist, for the record, spoilers, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You get like 7 episodes in out of 10 thinking that it's Nathan Lane. And then they're like, oh, surprise, it's not Nathan Lane. And then you never hear from Nathan Lane again. Like, he's just gone off the show. Like, no, it's not him. And he just disappears into the fucking ether.
Well,
so it's like, wait a minute.
He just won an Emmy.
He did.
I'm not sure if he won it for season 1 or season 2. But
is he in season 2?
He is in season 2. Smaller role. Well, I'd say actually comparable. He's only in like 3 episodes actually in the first season. If you think about it, like he's so
cumulative.
Big.
He doesn't
he's
have a lot of
such
screen
a
time.
He's a huge role. He's just in only like 3 episodes. And it's kind of the same, or it's less so. He's on a huge role in season 2, but he's like in about the same amount of screen time.
Okay. I can dig it.
Yeah. So. Well, we've already gotten into spoilers, so why don't we just kind of break down what happens and what your problems or maybe
I think
happinesses
my problem mostly
were.
has already been stated. Like it just was overhyped. Like I heard from you saying it was a great show.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to my own daily podcast called The Ralph Report with Ralph Garman, and he was blowing it up. Like, oh, you gotta watch. He was talking to his co-host Eddie Pence, and was like, you gotta watch it. It's so good. You could like literally hear him getting hard under the microphone. So it was like, and then I've just heard from random people from like work and stuff. They're like, oh yeah, it's a really good show. You should check it out. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And it just was like, oh, okay, it's fun. So I guess like I can't pinpoint if there's anything like necessarily wrong with the show.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit here and nitpick it. I'm not jumping up and down like, oh my god, this is an amazing show, because it just didn't hit that hype for me because it was already overhyped to me. So I would say everybody was kind of praising Selena Gomez, and I'm like, she felt very flat. And that might have been the character, Mabel, like she's very straight, sardonic, and just kind of like, I'm here as the young demographic. Okay. Like Stephen Martin and Martin Short had brought a certain personality to the show. Like you could like feel them kind of eking into it. And mind you, I don't have a whole lot of experience with Selena Gomez, but like.
So my impression of her acting for me was very similar to what a lot of people were complaining about Brie Larson in Captain Marvel. I liked Brie Larson in Captain Marvel. I thought that she played the character very subtly. Like most people just looked at her and said, "Oh, she's so blank," but there was a lot of like very subtle acting choices that she would make, you know, with her face. She was not very physical. She doesn't, you know, express herself very physically. She's very subtle with her face. And
which is still physical if you think about it.
If you think about it, but it's like a lot of like when a lot of people think of physical acting, they think of like body movement, but she's a lot more like of a facial actor.
Oh, so like you're acting, okay.
Sure.
Okay.
And no.
I've seen your acting, Graham. Do I need to remind you in the background of Bureau where you're like literally getting taken down by like, what the fuck was that thing again?
It was, I have honestly no idea. It was like this old fashioned like microwave thing with a lid on it.
Yeah, you went down hard with that thing.
Oh, I was having fun. Because I knew I was the producer and that I was the only one who was being held accountable. So I was like, if I get hurt, it's on me. It's not.
I'm a little bummed I didn't get a cameo in the second episode. I kind of wish I had put myself in there.
Yeah, you should have.
That was a glorious little cameo of you just getting taken down. But you did it with such ferocity.
Yeah.
Over and over and over and over. Like,
I commit. Must have
done that scene
what
like
the fuck
7
are you
times.
Talking about? I commit.
You did? I commend you. That's
I got hit 13 times by a car for my most recent film, and I commit.
Were the cameras rolling, or was somebody just trying to hit you?
The camera was rolling for every single one of them. I have a compilation video of it. I've sent it to you.
I'm sure you do.
I've sent it to you.
Anyway.
You've seen the video of me getting hit by a car, or getting reamed by a car on several occasions.
Oh man, I thought I dreamed that. I was kind of happy about that.
that is a true story. It was fun. I had a great time. I was very sore afterwards.
We all wish we could hit you with our cars, but
yeah, I bet you were the driver that day. Anyway, back to what we were talking about.
Brie Larson was a very subtle actor in Captain
and
Marvel.
I think that I was very skeptical when my brother and his girlfriend told me that, oh my god, it's so good, it's amazing. I was like, yeah, whatever. Selena Gomez, nah. And because I just had that like mentality from growing up. I didn't. She was tied to Justin Bieber in my mind, and fuck Justin Bieber, so fuck Selena Gomez. But I started watching the show, and after like an episode, I was like, she's really flat. Watched another episode, I was like, she's still kind of flat, but I feel like she's growing. And then by the end of the season, I felt like I felt like I understood who she was, because she was so subtle with her facial expressions. I was able to read a myriad of emotions over the course of a single scene. You know, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm stoic, I'm here right now, I'm delivering my lines. It was like, I'm here, I'm tense, but I'm just really, really good at holding in that emotion, you know? And I liked that. I thought that was a really good decision. She was just really contained with her like emotions. She wasn't over the top. Like Steve Martin and Martin Short, they are over the top. They are from an era.
That's who they are.
That's who they are. They like it's Steve over the top Martin and Martin over the over the top Short. Their middle names are over the top. So
what is it in the last scene or the last episode? He's like, "You've been sleeping with a fucking murderer."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like he just walks in. And he's like, "Oh my god." By the way, Martin Short's attire in both seasons, I need to be wearing it immediately. Like that purple trench coat, I want it. I want it.
I think it was like second episode. I was like, "This is Graham and I like 60 years." Son of a bitch. Steve Martin's even wearing a pork pie.
Yeah. Oh
God, this is my future.
When you go on to season 2, don't think about her just being stoic and blank. Watch her facial expression. Watch her eyes. Watch the emotions that she's conveying without doing with very subtly.
See, you say that, and I'm like, I'm trying to think back on any time I watched in the first season, and I think it's just because I'm a hollow shell of a man asshole that it's like
possible.
I don't see that shit because I was watching her. She's got the RBF like none other the whole fucking time. And for those who don't know, RBF is resting bitch face. Not saying she's a bitch, it's just a common saying.
That's fair. I'm sitting here, I'm like, all right, I guess I'm the asshole. But, you are the asshole. That's
not
the
anything
point.
new.
Yeah.
Not news to me.
Anyway, I thought it was. I didn't.
If I may,
think
I'm going to
about
interject.
It. Oh, go ahead.
You asked me shit that I really liked. I didn't know what to expect when I first went in because I was like, what is this show even fucking about? That was the nice thing is I did go in knowing almost absolutely nothing about it. Nothing was spoiled for me. Not even the story. I think the only thing I really knew was you told me you were oh, it's about a dude who's a washed up director and another one's a washed up actor.
It's a hard show to explain. It's a hard show to just say what it's about. So I think that's a good way to pitch it to people is they'll just go in without knowing anything.
But the framing device of them making their own podcast to solve this murder, I was like, oh, that's really fun.
Yeah.
And Martin Short being obsessed about getting every little detail recorded was hysterical. That I really enjoyed because I was like, oh, the neuroses, I get that.
I love his little body movements where he'll pull out his phone and tap the microphone and say, okay, yes, say that again and with a little more oeuvre.
Yeah, he's like, can you say that again?
He'll just
for
throw
half
out
the season,
random things, or he'll pop out with the microphone. Okay, again, and I want you to do it more passionately. Thank you. Go, action. He's a fucking mouse.
What microphone is he using? His furry cat is bigger than him. The fucking wind frame. For those who don't know, the furry cat is when you look at a boom microphone, a microphone on a boom pole, and at the end you've got this giant cylindrical thing that looks like it's just a bunch of wet hair. It's a wind blocker. It's supposed to help capture just the voice and block out any excess wind or air movement, so you're capturing exactly what you need. They call it the dead cat or furry cat, whatever. And Martin Short is carrying around this comically large fucking dead cat the whole goddamn time. What the fuck is he using?
He talks about the rental houses,
and he's inside the whole time, so there's no fucking wind.
Yeah, he's always talking about the rental houses he has to return to. And it's well, obviously it's New York, so it's East Hollywood, so he has access to great film microphones. But why? Yeah, why does he need that much? He talks about we need all this expensive equipment. But you don't.
But in the end, it's Steve Martin who takes down the killer with an iPhone recording. All they need are their phones and maybe a $250 boom mic that they could buy off the internet that would pick up better sound from a distance. Easy, very cheap. And then when he goes to Nathan Lane is I need $45,000. I'm well, that I felt was to pay for his rent and his lifestyle.
That, yeah.
That fucker's embezzling.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely embezzling. He should go to jail.
He cashed that check.
Yeah.
That check from Angel. Oh yeah, he cashed.
Oh, we need to talk about season 2 soon because the end of season 2 is wonderful and lovely, and I am so excited for what they do in season 3 because
it's been renewed.
It is open fucking fields for them.
Open season.
Yeah, they could go any direction. They left it so open. I have literally no idea where they could go next.
See, I'm all right, they solved the one murder that happened, the two murders that happened in the building, so it's what else are they going to do? So I don't even know where they're going for the second season, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I did like the framing device of the podcast, and I thought that was a very unique and contemporary way of telling the story.
Yeah, very unique.
Excuse me. That kept it very fresh. So that was fun. It almost makes me wish, and I'm surprised they haven't done this yet, is like released a like the hyper reality podcast for the show. Like, do you know what I mean?
Sorry, repeat that. I zoned off for just like 5 seconds.
Pothole. I wish they would release a hyper reality, which is like an item from a show, like it's something from a TV show or a movie that you can make exist in real life.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, I kind of wish they would release like maybe like an 8 to 10 episode like actual podcast that is the actual one they made.
Of Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah,
that, I bet
actual podcast.
I bet that they will do that. The show is that popular that I bet somebody else has suggested it, and if not, they should have. Like, it's a great idea, and I think I thought about it while watching the show. I was like, I bet they could market this so well if they just took a lot of the stuff that they already did in the show and just like spun it into that. Yeah, I think that would be great. I think they could make a lot of money off of that. Marketing department for Hulu, I think, makes the show. Like, hey, heads up. Which
because they're fucking listening to our bullshit.
Yeah. Which is Hulu is owned by Disney, so Disney owns everything.
Exactly.
Is the answer to that.
My Hulu has commercials, and all I got to see was previews for that Pinocchio, which we've already discussed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
But was it the hot Pinocchio?
No, it was not.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
And
I'll appreciate you should never ask that question
Yeah.
ever again. So I'm gonna suggest something, Graham. I have an idea for on the topic of podcasts, but at first, I am about to make my third drink, and I've only seen you smoke twice this evening, so I feel like we're kind of on different levels here.
I pre-gamed, sir. But
you think I didn't?
Fair enough. What do you ask of me? Humble sir.
Humble my ass. I've never been humble in my life.
Oh, I know. I was just trying to be nice.
Yeah, well, keep trying. But I think you showed me in the pregame, or maybe you put it on camera on a recording. You've got a selection of weed. Like, you're not just rocking one strain. You're walking a quad. You're walking a couple. What are you walking right now? And I'm gonna stop saying walking.
Yeah. Well, I got this lovely little weed tray, and I got.
It did look like a nice tray.
A few assortments. Here.
So we're looking at a nice polished mahogany tray.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Nice layers going on. And did your brother make that for you?
No, he didn't. But I did ask him. I asked him if he would make one of these, and he was like, maybe someday. But I found this at the local weed shop.
It is of nice craftsmanship. I would believe that your brother made that. He makes some good stuff.
I'm basically getting it so that I can encourage him to take a look at it and
what a wonderful brother and influence you are.
Yes. So over in this corner we got some pink Kush
and in this corner weighing 225 grams we got the pink Kush.
Pink Kush over in that corner. Bring that up a little bit. Down here in this corner we got the Sage and Sour. This one tastes pretty dank. It's like
first they're sweet.
This is actually
then they're sour.
This is actually one of the tastiest strains I've ever smoked, and that's saying something. Like usually they kind of just taste the same, but this one, oh maron. And up here in the
says the fucking dude who can't tell the difference between vodka and gin.
You know what? I
have
a different sensibility for tastes. You have a sensibility for alcohol. I have a better sensibility for marijuana. The simple facts in life. And down in here, that is it that? Oh yeah, we've done that one.
No,
Up in this
there it
corner.
is.
Yeah, there we go. This is the Pacific OG. This one's pretty
The original
good.
gangsta of the Pacific.
Mm-hmm. And so these two are sativas, and this over here is an indica. So far, I've just been getting little pinches of all three and adding them together. But if we're gonna do a tasting,
So what's the fucking point?
hold on. Now we're
Your
gonna
drink's
do a little
smoking
tasting.
the mutt of fucking weed.
Exactly. Now
Fucking
we'll
weed cocktail.
We will be doing a tasting. We'll start with the sage and sour.
He's loading up his bowl, folks. Look at him go. It does look quite delectable.
It's got
I'll
a-
admit that. Like,
It's
it
got a
was great.
wonderful texture to it, and the camera can't really see it, but
How's the bouquet?
oh my, not to repeat myself, but oh my god,
My God, sir, you're hard.
it's a humble 7.
I was gonna say I was gonna hard 420, but you know, whatever. The sage and sour. He's in his nice clean bong. Look at that. His bong is even clean too. We're gonna at least believe it's clean. For people who are listening, you're gonna believe it's clean because you're not gonna be able to see what it looks like.
Oh
That sounded like a good hit. How'd that do for you?
oh yeah, that's weed.
That's weird. Well, that's good. You're not smoking angel dust over there, so you know what? This isn't drunk thoughts and angel dust answers.
So that was the sage and sour. I'm immediately getting a head rush. I'm excited to smoke the next one because, as you all know, sativa, or as the educated will know, sativa is more like coffee than it is a drug.
It's a pick me up.
Yeah, exactly. And you know,
Whereas the indica, you go into bed.
that's a really great way of putting it. Is that something you learned at the old frat house?
That's my mnemonic device that I developed.
I like
And I
that.
think it's from you from when we smoked the fucking dabs, and I think they were indicas because I immediately went into bed. I was like, fuck this noise. Like, not only was the world spinning, but my head was spinning in an opposite direction, so it was like a gyroscope kind of effect. And I did not appreciate it one bit.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Up next is the Pacific OG, also a sativa. So I'm gonna go up, Dune.
He's gonna go up, and then Timothy Chalamet.
Well, no, I feel like never mind.
Call back. I have to admit, I really appreciate you doing it right next to the mic so we can get a nice sound recorded. Like that's really doing it for me. You know what I'm saying? How's that one? How's the Pacific OG?
Yep, that's
What would you say is the biggest difference between the two?
the flavor. The sage and sour, it actually has like a sweet kind of like the way that mint like kind of gets cold in the back of your mouth does the same sort of effect there. And the Pacific OG is very, very kind of normal weed flavor, you know, much closer to what you would expect. But it's got kind
Us
of a
with the unrefined weed taste is what you're referring to.
But if you're looking for something specific, it does kind of have like that. I'm trying to describe the flavor of a beach. You know, that weird.
Like a little salty,
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
warm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Graham. Okay. Okay, Graham, okay.
Now the last one up
You're gonna-
is Pink Kush.
You can come back, Dune.
Come back,
Bring it on,
Dune.
Dune.
Yeah.
Yes. Get Dune with it. Jump on it, Dune.
Oh, no.
Awkward silence while he packs
While
his bomb.
you are
Awkward
not
silence.
vamping, sir.
I know. I was trying to vamp and was trying to think of something, but by the way, for those who are curious, the drink I just made it's supposed to be a vodka tonic with cranberry juice, but this cranberry juice tastes like it has some apple in it, which is fucking weird. Like, the color is way more not red than you'd expect from cranberry juice. I think the label's fucking wrong. Like, I think this is cran apple and it's just got a cranberry label on it. It's kind of weird. And I say that not only because of my tastes, but I had a friend over recently and made her a Cosmopolitan, and even she was like, huh, this tastes different. A Cosmopolitan, at least the doubles that I make her, because she drinks almost as much as I do. I kid. She's not that bad. Nobody's as bad as me. But I still make her a double, a nice Cosmo that'll fill up one of these glasses. Has 2 ounces of cranberry juice. So what I made her one of those with this bottle, and she goes, huh, that tastes weird and funny. So I'm thinking I got a fucking mislabeled bottle here. It's a little strange, but I like cran apple, don't get me wrong.
Or here, this is a very real possibility. Artificial flavoring does not actually always taste like they say it does.
100% juice, motherfucker.
I
suck a dick.
Have smoked a lot, and you have requested I smoke once more. And because of what I did to you last week, which I listened back to while recording and felt bad.
Oh, you made me chug margaritas?
Yes.
Yeah, that was
fucking
fantastic.
I laughed, but then I was like, all right, I'll get him back. And now that you've requested this, I feel that it is only right.
You wanted to... You presented me with the idea of, like, smoking...
Go with it! Go with it! I'm presenting you as the villain!
The listeners don't need any reassurance there. I'm pretty sure I'm the antagonist of this podcast. No doubts there.
All right.
Yes, Graham. Smoke all the fucking herb in the world. OD on marijuana for me.
Oh, man. If only it were possible.
Yeah, no kidding.
Final one on our list here is an indica. Now, some would argue that sativas and indicas are 2 different drugs, practically. They just look the same. I would tend to agree, because the way indicas make me feel, they absolutely make me feel way different than sativas do. Sativa never makes me tired, never, makes me lazy. I always have to feel the need to do something. And whereas indica...
Smoke the weed.
Indica shuts me down. So, without further ado... Cory, I will smoke this fine pink kush.
Smoke your fine pink kush. Yeah, I like that shit. Smoke it, 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 pull the choke. Yeah. Now hold it. Hold it, Graham. Don't be a pussy. Hold it. Don't do it. Don't you fucking do it. Okay, you're good. Can we get a drum roll? Woo! And the verdict is...
Yeah, I'm high.
Finally.
Fucked me up.
All right, tell you what. You see how much I got left here?
3 bowls in 10 minutes. My man.
I'm going to finish this in honor of my buddy here. I will finish this for him.
Handle your intoxicants, folks.
Remember, Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions is recorded in the safety of our own homes. We are not doing this remotely. Well, we're doing it remotely together, but we're in our own homes, not doing shit. I'm pretty sure Graham and I are going to do the same thing after this, and it's going to go watch TV. So, handle your fucking high, kids. Don't do something stupid.
Yeah, that's the basic message of this show. Handle your high.
So that's the fucking moral of the story. Okay. Shit.
Sure, that's what we'll tell people.
That's the verdict we're going with, and we're sticking to it. So we've talked about Final Fantasy 13. meh. We were talking about Only Murders in the Building. And I really dug the idea of how they framed that with a podcast. I thought that was very contemporary and new. And it kind of got me thinking, because the three characters, how they come together is their love of a single podcast or a variety, a genre, so to speak, a true crime. But they're all listening to the same true crime podcast at the beginning, and so they decided to create their own. And I think that kind of rang true with Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions, because I feel like you and I are inspired, by many a podcast. So I was like, Graham, on our podcast, have we talked about other podcasts?
Well, that's not typically done. I've heard that it's almost a taboo to talk about other podcasts.
Well, guess fucking what? We're doing it. Fucker.
All right, yeah. Well, we are drunk. We are high. Why not? Well, you're drunk. I'm high.
As far as you know.
Have you been taking gummies?
I have not. I haven't been able to find them yet. It's a work in progress. Soon we're gonna reverse the roles, folks. It's spoilers. We're gonna do an episode where we reverse everything, and you're in for a real treat there, because I am a piece of shit when I'm high. You think I'm bad while I'm drunk? Find me high, and it's pretty fucking boring, to be honest. So Anyway, moving on. So Graham, I tasked you before the podcast, a little peek behind the curtains, to choose your top three favorite. Give me one of those three. It doesn't have to be the first, second, or third in any order. Just give me one of your top three, and then I'll talk about one of mine, and we'll just go back and forth until we feel like shutting the fuck up.
All right, Corey. Corey, all right. All right, Corey.
All right.
Corey, all right.
Deal.
One of my top three podcasts.
You're so high right now.
I'm so high. Fuck you.
I feel like I need to slam a beer and get on your level or something. Fuck, you're high. All right, tell you what. I'm not gonna slam a summer shandy, but I'm gonna double fist. How's that sound?
Do it. All right.
And you better not cut any of that.
I'm not. Okay. So, one of the three podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis, that I always listen to a new episode, is Office Ladies. Because I love The Office, and those two ladies are just so nice and wonderful. And sometimes you...
Which two ladies?
Angela Kinsey and Jenna Fisher, who played Angela and Pam on the show, and they're besties in real life, and they are just so warm and nice, and listening to it makes you feel the same. And so I always like to listen to it, especially on drives and stuff, and I always like going and watching the episode afterwards, Oftentimes, oftentimes when I haven't been watching The Office, I will watch or listen to an episode, and then pick up where that episode is, and just watch to the end of the series. They're close to the end now. I've watched the last few seasons a few times now, and I'm starting to realize the mistake of what I used to think of the show. I used to prefer the last two seasons, and now I'm realizing why everybody was right about the preceding 7. They're still better than everybody says, but I was wrong.
It's like Final Fantasy 13. It's not, it's still The Office. It's still good. It's just maybe not be the highlight seasons. It's not the best seasons if you had to rank them. The upper echelon.
That's a reach, Corey, but sure.
I'm trying to tie it together, bitch. Go with it.
What about you, Corey? What's one of your top 3s?
Well, you brought up a rewatch podcast. So, Office Ladies, they watch an episode and talk about it. I'm guessing it's kind of like a commentary track almost, where they, kind of break down the episode and they discuss, various elements that the average viewer probably wouldn't be aware of. Is that
and then
a fair assumption? I've never listened to that.
Sometimes they'll get obsessed with like little details, like, oh, the plants are changing on Pam's desk from episode to episode. Why are the plants changing? They'll get obsessed with.
Oh, they put on continuity errors, so they're shitting on the script supervisor.
Or they're trying to figure out, because it almost actually tells a story. There's a story with the flowers they've realized as it goes through, and they realized that the production the production designer was doing something, was just like doing like this plant of the week. They just realized it. They were like, oh, Pam was doing a plant of the week program.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
It was just a really subtle detail about her. Another thing that really like livens the show. Anyway. Fuck, what were we talking about?
You asked me my favorite podcast, and I was trying to tie it together to one of mine.
They get obsessed with stuff, and so why do you ask?
Go back to... Do me a favor. Drink some of your LaCroix. Because, man, are you fucking high.
I'm out. I have to get another one.
Well, go get another one while I vamp to the kids.
Oh, God. You're impossible.
Stay hydrated. Bye, Graham. Well, while Graham is grabbing another LaCroix, maybe we can get sponsored by them. That'd be awesome. It won't happen. One of my favorite podcasts, kids, is and I don't keep up with it nearly enough because my life just doesn't accommodate it as much. But I am a huge fan of the Scrubs Rewatch podcast. Graham just joined us again, so I'm going to repeat that. I'm a big fan of the Scrubs Rewatch podcast, also known as Fake Doctors, Real Friends. This one has the two stars of Scrubs, Zach Braff and Donald Faison, who played JD and Chris Turk, respectively, on the show. And I think the best and worst part of this podcast is each episode of the podcast is an hour and a half. Mind you, they are going episode by episode through the entire series, and each television episode is about 22 minutes, give or take. And they spend so much time just talking about other bullshit. They barely talk about every episode. They hint on it. They reference it. Like, oh, I loved it when this happened and this happened. And they summarize the episode. The Donna Faison does a great job, like, deep diving into, like, the psyche of, like, the moral of the episode and what it all means and stuff. He does a great little, like, 30-second summary. But fuck, is it just entertaining to hear these two guys? Because it's really, just like Office Ladies, I'm sure, you can hear how this friendship blossomed in the show and is now just stronger than ever 20 years after the show aired.
Yeah.
Where Zach and Donald are just thick as thieves. They love each other to death, and they just have so much fun. And I just thought that was a super cool element. First of all, I love that aspect of the show in the sense that, like, you knew these guys hung out outside of Scrub. They weren't just on-screen best friends. They were real-life best friends. And you can hear that every time they talk. And they've also done a really good job. They've incorporated their producers. So normally they're, Joelle and Daniel are off, and they only come in, like, they only speak when spoken to kind of thing. But they've now included it. So now it's almost like a 4-person podcast. And then they bring in, like, a guest star or a guest person, a listener every week to ask questions. They started bringing in guests, like other people part of the show, and just reminiscing. And you get to learn some really cool shit about the show. So it's just, I listen to it when I can, but it's few and far between because I just don't have the time to listen to podcasts relentlessly.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think they're in season 6 right now of the show, and I'm in like season 3 on the episodes. Mm-hmm. So I'm wicked far behind, like 2 years almost. It's funny too because they'll reference real world shit, and I'm like, wait, what? That was like 2 years? Oh, I'm far behind. Fuck.
Yeah.
Like, oh, to hear this new, like, have you heard about this new thing? It's like COVID-19. What the fuck is that? And I was like, oh, god damn it. Like, we're all fucked. Yeah. So, but the podcast is just super well done. I love hearing these guys just chit chat because you can just tell they're best friends and they miss each other each day. And then there's just the little things like, and I don't mean to bash it, but it just is one of those, like, it doesn't make sense, but gives me hope for the future. That 40s something Zach Braff is dating 20 something Florence Pugh.
They've broken up.
Did they? Ooh, so there's a chance.
There is a chance, but don't.
So you're saying Zach Braff is single?
But don't tell your girlfriend.
I was talking about Zach Braff. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I see. Oh, you're. Oh.
You took that in the wrong context.
Forgive me.
But it was still so. Again, I'm not caught up on this, but it's fun because you'll hear Florence in the background pop in once in a while, and like for those who don't know, she has one of those like thick British accents. So it's just hysterical to hear her like natural accent versus like what you heard in maybe Black Widow or Midsummer.
Midsummer, yeah.
Is that Midsummer, or even the previews for Don't Worry Darling, the new movie that's coming out from Olivia Wilde, like that she stars in with Harry Styles and Chris Pine. So that's just fun. Or this show has, and I am not ashamed to admit it, like the best fucking intro music of all time. I love her little piano ditty, don't get me wrong, but it's nice stock music. This one has a custom intro. It is far and away the best intro music to any podcast out there.
Yeah.
I will fight you tooth and nail on that every night.
Well, speaking of good intro music, the next one on my list, I think has a way better. No matter what it is, I think it has a way better intro song.
If you say "speaking of" one more time, I'm gonna punch you through a screen.
Fine. Do you want me to repeat that and then I'll cut it out and do a new one?
No, we're done now. We're in the thick of it. I'm just warning you.
Then
for the rest
all right,
of
then.
For the next half hour, you say "speaking of" and you move on to the next subject, you will get punched in the eyeball.
On the subject,
Graham, why don't you tell us about your next podcast?
On the subject.
No, you don't get a cut point. You do not get a cut point there. Fuck you. I heard that awkward silence, and you do not get a cut point. You leave this shit in so the viewers know you are under threat, sir. Under threat of death. That you will not fuck up this podcast again. With your "speaking of." Christ, you high asshole.
You're the one who told me to fucking smoke 3 bowls in a row.
I didn't tell you to do shit. I said compare them. You didn't have to do it back to back or bowl to bowl. That's your fault for interpreting shit.
I was expecting we were going to do it a little differently. One at the beginning of the show, one at the middle, one at the end.
That would have been a brilliant idea, but you were like, I'm going to smoke these 3 bowls back to back.
We were already 40 minutes in.
We were like, well, that's because you took forever to make a point on Final Fantasy 13. But anywhoozle, tell us about your next podcast. Move this shit along. I got shit to do in the morning, so talk.
The next one on my list is James Stephanie Sterling's Podquisition, which talks about video games and video game news. But it also often it just kind of talks the hosts' lives. They talk about their lives a lot, and they're people that I enjoy and follow, and they're funny, and hearing their complaints is actually quite enjoyable. That's what I'm hoping from this show, is that some people will actually take enjoyance from just us being like blathering on, because that's kind of what that show is. It's just them blathering on about video games, and then they talk about video game news. And they're actually video game journalists. It's James Stephanie Sterling, Laura Kate, and Conrad Zimmerman. And they're all like video game journalists and writers and YouTube creators and content creators. And
where do they publish their writings? Like, what publication do they work for?
Conrad and Jim Sterling used to work for The Escapist. and then they both went freelance because back in like 2013, 2014, The Escapist like changed hands and was really shitty. And so they went freelance, and so they've been freelance journalists ever since and do quite well for themselves. And Laura Kate is I'm forgetting her last name. I just know her as Laura Kate. Is a writer and content creator, freelance, and they all are supported through what is it called? That thing that you can just set up and get and people Patreon. That's it. Yeah, they're all supported through Patreon. Which, if we get enough followers, maybe we should fucking think about that. But we have like what, 3?
I think it went to 2 after this past couple minutes.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm cutting that. Don't worry. I'm cutting all of that.
No, we got to hear your podcast ramble.
I am so high. My
next, yes, you are. So we're just gonna keep moving on. You've shown me, Sterling. What's her name now? Not Jim, because
their name
was Jim.
James Stephanie Sterling.
Stephanie Sterling. They're yeah. You show me their stuff in the past, and I'm personally not a fan, so I don't have really a whole lot to comment on that. You know, if you got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. So I'm gonna keep moving on. My next one I'm gonna mention, because my last one I think will be a tie. I have 2 in my head, but I'll talk about that later. But the next one, and this is the one I listen to daily, is the Ralph Report. This is probably far and away my favorite podcast. It's the one I listen to most frequently because they put out a daily podcast. Monday through Friday is something new. It's hosted by former radio DJ Ralph Garman out of Los Angeles and his stand-up comedian friend Eddie Pence. And they take an hour and change to just bring you various segments of various hilarity, as well as Ralph does a really good job reporting the news, telling you kind of like what's going on in the entertainment world, if there's anything big going on. And he also does like some of the segments that I really enjoy, like he does a deep dive into history and tells you like who was born and or died on each day. So you can kind of deep dive and you're like, oh, you know, on this day, this person died and this is what they were known for. And you're like, oh shit, like that person invented like the paperclip. I never knew that. So just little bits of trivia that really mean nothing in the long run, but it's just kind of interesting to hear because you just don't think about that kind of shit on a daily basis or ever in your life. So to hear it like, oh, this person invented the mechanical pencil, or the this person founded Jose Cuervo tequila, and you're like, oh shit, like cool, that's interesting. His co-host Eddie is a unique individual. He's a stand-up comedian, nice guy. He is a very picky eater, so they like daily will ask him, will he eat various things and or shove it up his ass, which is just a question that I think everybody needs to ask themselves when they think about new foods. Will they eat it or shove it up their ass? You know, you never know. So, little side note, little personal plug. He is a really nice dude. I've hung out with Eddie. He came to Washington D.C. a couple years ago and did a comedy special, and I helped him film it. So if you've ever seen the Eddie Pence Unspecial comedy special, I was his profile camera operator for the 3 shows that he recorded. So that was fun, like being a part of that and getting to know the guy and realizing like how he, you know, that he doesn't have a persona. He's not trying to like put on an act. Like it's just him and Ralph chit-chatting every day. And that's really what helped me. Like it kind of inspires me with this podcast is just you and, you know, 2 friends just chit-chatting, just shooting the shit, talking about random things here and there. So, yeah, it does. He's also on Patreon. Ralph, to get his podcast, you have to pay. It's a minimum of $3 a month to get his full podcast, which breaks down to pennies a day. but quickly made me realize how much money can be made from podcasts when you think about it. When you've got 5,000 people, listening. 5,000 people I think he has approximately listening. Maybe 6,000 at this point, but not a lot. Like, when you think about that number in the grand scheme of things, 6,000 people listening is not a big number. But each person paying an average to $5 to $10, because he has tiers. You can do $3, $5, $10, or $20 a month. I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and there's like probably 100 people doing the $20 thing.
Oh, there's
at
more.
Least.
Like, it's insanity.
Yeah, at least. And so you just think about like the sheer number of people, because there would be a lot of people who would just do the $3 one or $1. Yeah, $3. Just
I do the $3 because I used to do the $5, but the only thing that the $5 gets you that the $3. So every Monday, they, so as I mentioned, every episode they talk about a food. Will Eddie eat or shove up his ass a certain food? On Mondays, they put it to the test where Ralph will bring in a food and give it to Eddie to eat and or shove up his ass. He usually eats it. Actually, 100% of the time he eats it. We have yet to see Eddie shove anything up his ass.
Well,
it's coming like a freight train. I'm sure.
I hope that never changes.
But he does, and like it is kind of fun because like he's such a stubborn eater, a stubborn dude when it comes to food. Like it's a joke that all he eats are chicken nuggets, microwave chicken nuggets. Yeah. But sometimes Ralph will bring in something. He goes, "Holy shit, this is really good," or other times he goes, "This is fucking disgusting. Why am I eating this? Why am I putting this in my mouth?" Yeah. Like I think the funniest one was Rocky Mountain oysters, which if you don't know are testicles. So they ate that on air. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, I find it
so you get the video version of that if you pay between the $3 and the $5.
I get you.
Payment options. The $5 you can watch them do that segment. You can see him in real time put on the face that's like. But
then like $10 gives you like closer access, and $20 like you get to be a part of it or something like that, or you get to be like a
$10 you get to be a part of. On the weekends they do happy hour where they'll do a show, but it's not like a show, it's just them chit-chatting.
Yeah. And then $20
like they just kind of
is like,
and then $20 they do a live stream of one of the episodes.
Oh, okay.
So you can watch it being recorded in real time versus the next morning, because they record the night before.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, the Ralph Report is definitely one of my more favorite podcasts. He said, setting up a segue.
Yeah. I find it interesting that you are speaking of Ralph Garman, because he happens to be a part of a podcast that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is Hollywood Babylon. You know, I discovered Kevin Smith back when I was 16, and he was like, he was the one who inspired me to want to become a filmmaker. And then the next year I went on to France, and while I was living in France, he was still kind of my, you know, attachment to the States. You know, he was like this thing. Hey, I had just gotten into some sort of pop culture, and if you can call Kevin Smith pop culture, he's his own kind of.
He's the pop culture king.
Yeah, he's his own kind of pop culture. And so
he is pop culture. I think he's got his finger on the pulse more than anybody else.
Sure. And maybe not in 2016, 2017. But sure.
Christ, that's so young.
And so
fuck you with the big rusty pole.
And so I listened to Hollywood Babylon religiously. I loved it. I always looked for new episodes. I was excited because it was my, you know, way of hearing.
It's time to babble the fuck on.
It was my news from you know, France about American bullshit, and I just, you know, it was an escape from being in France for an hour and a half, you know. And so that show was really near and dear to me, and the first one I ever listened to was related to his working on Flash. I had never seen Flash, but
Kevin, you're talking about Kevin
Smith,
right?
Yeah. Kevin Smith had just directed an episode of Flash, but he had talked a little bit about it online, and it seemed really exciting. So I went and listened I heard that he did a huge deep dive on an episode of Hollywood Babylon, so I went and listened to the episode and ended up loving the show. And then from then on, I just listened to, everything. And so I would say that's my third choice. There's a lot of other Office shows that I listen to and Parks and Recreation re-listens that I listen to, but I'm gonna pick that one as my third.
Parks and Recollection.
Parks and Recollection, and Office Deep Dive, and oral history of The Office, and all that shenanigans. But I think that I'd put those three.
Babylon?
Yeah, those three are the ones.
Okay. That tracks. I mean, Babylon, don't get me wrong, is up there for me for a favorite podcast because, and it almost, when we were trying to decide how to do this show, that was an inspiration in the sense that, like, so Ralph is almost a straight man in the sense that he comes with, like, news and segments and he prepares the show and he does a lot of work beforehand. And then Kevin just shows up high as balls and comments on it. And I mean, that's how I thought this show would go. Yeah, I thought about, like, do I want to do the work and prepare a show, and then, like, Graham just highly comment on it while I drink? I'm like, no, fuck that. Why should I do the work? So we're just both winging it the whole time, and that I think works really well.
It'll get some kind of audience eventually.
Yeah,
the internet works. Internet works that way. It'll appeal to some kind of people.
I don't know. The Ralph Report has a dude that calls in from Kansas City. His name escapes me because I'm high or I'm drunk as shit right now, and you're high. But he's also high all the time, and so Eric, is it Eric? No, Eric from Kansas City, formerly of Clearwater. He's high all the time, and he's hilarious when he calls in. So I bet he would love our show. But anyway, point being, Babylon, I love that show, but I get a lot of my Ralph fix from Ralph Report, and it's almost funny how I have to commend Ralph that he almost does two versions of himself. He does two versions of himself when he does these shows. Like the Ralph Report, he's a little more straight. He's a little bit more a radio DJ. Like you could tell he's working. Mm-hmm. Versus the Babylon, he's more just having fun. Sure. And yeah, he's still working. Yeah. And he still has done the prep work.
He's drinking.
He's having fun
with Kevin while he's doing Babylon.
But see, he at least once a week drinks during the Ralph Report.
Well, sure, yeah.
During the live one that I mentioned earlier, where the $20 tier members can watch, he allows himself to drink during that as well because he considers it a watch party.
Sure, yeah.
He even has a whole little thing about it. So. But even then, like, even though he's drinking during that, you can still, like, hear a distinguishable difference in his voice and his timbre and his personality between the two. Yet he's still very much Ralph Garman, and it's just hysterical. But I have to commend him for being able to bounce between the two and keep them separate yet whole at the same time. And it's pretty funny when you hear a little bit of a crossover. Like, for instance, he was talking about Justin Bieber earlier this week, and he goes, I don't like to cross the streams too much between Babylon, but I'm talking about Justin Bieber, so I have to play this. And he plays the Justin Bieber is a cunt theme, and it's hilarious. Yeah. So anyway, I do enjoy Babylon, but for my, and I would say it's probably fifth on my list because I'm going to give you a tiebreaker for 3. The tiebreaker is between Fat Man Beyond, which is also with Kevin Smith, and a gentleman named Mark Bernard, and I'll talk about that in a second, as well as Game Scoop from IGN. I haven't watched Game Scoop in a while, but I remember I loved it for a couple of years. It was hosted by a guy named Damon Hatfield. This is from IGN, a quote-unquote reputable news source of video games and entertainment. Yeah. I say quote-unquote because they always kind of seem to be a little behind on the ball with their news. And
like us.
Fair. But we also take a week to edit our shit. And so, okay, we're releasing this on let's see, that's going to be the 16th. The Queen just died. That's how contemporary we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway. But the Game Scoop I liked because, and I'll just keep it brief because it is a brief thing, but I liked, so IGN has 6 different podcasts that cover different things. So there's an Xbox podcast and a Nintendo podcast, a PlayStation podcast, a movies podcast, a Game of Thrones. They had a Game of Thrones podcast specifically for Game of Thrones. They were very isolated I liked GameScoop because Damon did a great job. First of all, he was just a fantastic host. But then they would cover everything, and I like that. I like having all the news kind of bundled together.
Yeah.
I didn't like the fact that I had to listen to 3 different podcasts to get the news.
I get that, yeah.
They would be like, let's pick out the cherry best news that's going on and talk about that. And then it was a podcast, but there was a live video version, just like what we do, where you could watch them and see them interact with each other. And it was always him as well as 3 other folks from IGN. So there was always different opinions and people from different walks of life and different people, people who enjoy different styles of games. So I love just getting those different opinions from people. And then he'd always keep it fun too with little things like video game 20 questions, where he would have the name of an old school game, and the other hosts had 20 questions to figure out what game, which I thought was just a fun little thing. So anyway, fun little show if it's still going on. I just really enjoyed that back in the day. But the other one on that list was Fat Man Beyond, formerly Fat Man, known as what was it used to be called? Fat Man on Batman?
Fat Man on Batman, yeah. And then there was legal trouble with DC.
Well, there's that. And then, well, Kevin's not so fat anymore.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
But the DC thing was probably more viable. But anyway, that is...
but it's called Fat Man Beyond.
But because he's beyond being fat.
What? Oh, my God.
That was always my interpretation. Was he is now beyond being a fat guy.
Okay, 10th grade symbolism class.
Hey man, I'm shallow as a fucking kiddie pool. But, so this one is Kevin Smith, renowned filmmaker, at least in this podcast.
Sure.
And a guy named Mark Bernardin. And they do this podcast either live at a bar in Los Angeles known as Scum and Villainy, or they do it virtually. And I love this podcast because, again, it's the same idea. Like Kevin, God bless the dude for figuring out a way to work without working. Because all that dude does is smoke and then show up high and gets paid for it. Because he doesn't do a lick of work beforehand. And I'm not trying to belittle the dude, but like he's figured out the fucking formula. Because, just like in Babylon, where you have Ralph as the straight man who gives you the news and how much Justin Bieber is a cunt and whatnot. And forgive my French, Mom, if you're listening. He goes into Fat Man Beyond, where he's, like, I don't want to say oblivious, but he doesn't do, like, a whole lot of prep, and it's obvious in the best way possible. But Mark preps news, and he talks about video game, not so much video game, but, like, comic news and movie news and entertainment news. Mark was a writer for The Hollywood Reporter for a number of years, and now he's a writer for, himself, as well as various TV shows, films, and most recently, video games. They just announced a game today, which is September 9th, for Disney Plus, a World War II Captain America Black Panther video game.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
That he helped write on. And guess who's directing it?
Who?
Amy Hennig.
Who is Amy Hennig? What has she done?
She is responsible for the Uncharted games.
Oh, well, that's exciting.
If my memory serves.
She can do whatever she pleases.
Do me a favor and fact check that before we publish this.
Okay.
But she's a very big name in the video game world as a director. And so the fact that Mark got to work with Amy and create a narrative game based on Captain America and Black Panther is fantastic. Because Mark, Mark is a black man. And they commented that frequently. Not frequently, but they do make mention of it once in a while on Fat Man Beyond and make jokes of it. But it's nice to have the diverse opinion from that lifestyle. Plus, he's a man who grew up in New York City, and he's a writer, and he's a really good fucking writer.
Yeah, he is. I've read some of his stuff, and he's really good.
Genius is one of his comic books. Adora in the Distance was recently nominated for an Eisner. Like, his work is phenomenal from that aspect. And then, but I'm also I love his opinions on things because he really deep dives uniquely into stories and really makes you question, like, was this good? what was the point? What was the character driving at? What was the story driving at? He really I'll watch a Marvel movie and just be like, this is fun, colors, lights, superpowers, and he's like, but why?
Yeah,
and you're like, oh shit,
he's maybe not as like crazy as Alan Moore or Neil Gaiman, but he's definitely like got a strong vision when it comes to his writing and wields that, and I respect the hell out of him.
I love hearing him and make takes on anything really. Just the fact that he has such strong opinions, and it's not always a good one. Like, he gets bashed so much online after almost every episode of Fat Man Beyond because he's like, oh, Mark Bernard shits on this, but if you listen to the episode, he's not shitting on it. He's just kind of questioning.
People will complain about anything. Half the time they haven't even listened.
The internet trolls.
Half the time they haven't even listened to the episode. They just know.
Oh, it's more than half.
Yeah, most of the time they just know that he complained in the past about something, and so this episode comes out, and they're like, "Oh, I bet that he didn't like this." They choose to believe, that this person did not like this because I liked it, or whatever, or I didn't like it, or. So I'm going to project that onto them. Whatever feeling people have, they'll do it, and he gets the butt end of that.
It's toxic like none other. But I love hearing his opinion because it makes me think more critically about the things that I love. Because I like being spoon-fed shit. I like the shallow end of the kiddie pool. I like to just be entertained when I'm watching TV. I don't like to think too deeply. With the rare exception, like I do like the occasional Chris Nolan movie that's like, holy shit, you just blew my mind.
Well,
but
if you like your occasional Chris Nolan film, then shall I once again pitch to you The Leftovers? Because The Leftovers is a long Chris Nolan film.
Yeah, Nolan's films are long enough. Thank you.
Anyway, that's what I'm saying. Okay. How about I say this?
Speaking of The Leftovers, I think we need to over
this way
before I turn left.
The Leftovers is a long Chris Nolan film.
Yeah, you're not selling it.
But better.
Nah, I doubt that very much.
Oh, it's way better. Trust me.
Yeah, no. A long Chris Nolan film was like Westworld Season 1.
Yeah, sure.
And that was better. But I'm not going to commit to Leftovers.
Sad. It's very sad. It's the greatest.
Hey, did you ever finish Avatar?
I got to the end of, or halfway through season 2.
Yeah, get fucked. You can't even get through a kid's show and you're asking me to watch The Leftovers.
It's a kid's show. I'm older. It's harder to commit to.
Don't care. Still a great show. Get to it. Especially because the latter half of season 2 and the season 3 are, it only gets better.
Fine. My next day off, I'll binge the entire thing. Happy.
Next day off, what do you do?
I have work to do now. Classes started. Chop, chop.
Mm-hmm. Any hoozle.
I'm giving you the evil stare. Meh.
Yeah, you do that. And I'm going to just finish talking about Fat Man Beyond. And just, all right. Meh. Well, how about we just end it there with a good old meow.
Meh.
So, as previously mentioned, before Graham's meow, it's meow meow. It's, this has been another episode of Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions, and we are now available where you find all your more quality, better produced, better listening, better looking podcasts.
Where you don't have to look at
we're still on those
fucking mugs.
Yeah, if you're sick of looking at our faces but you still want to hear our voices, do check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts. We might be on Stitcher soon. We'll see. I'm working on that. But if you can't find it there, you don't give a fuck. So
If it isn't there, then I lied in a previous post I made in saying that it was available.
yeah,
in all...
Graham actually posted. Can we all just give a nice round of applause for Graham for conquering social media and actually posting?
How do you do the fucking things again?
Your Instagram story posts are
No,
hysterical.
the applause
Apple,
on this,
Spotify.
and the applause in this thing.
It doesn't record anyway. You have to put it in post.
Fuck you.
I have the file if you want it. I can send it to you.
Okay.
But yeah, so check us out on those various platforms, or you can continue to watch us here on YouTube. It's totally up to you. But if you do enjoy us on any of those platforms, go ahead and hit the old like and subscribe so we know that. Leave a comment or question, a query. If you're high, leave an opinion. If you're drunk, leave a thought. If you're drunk and high, then, well...
Handle your high.
Handle it, yeah.
Handle your intoxications, folks. Be safe.
Have
do
a
it
good
at
time
home.
with it. Like we do. And we'll look forward to seeing you wonderful folks next week's episode of Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions. But until then, I am Cory Rokes, and I've been your Drunk Thoughts.
And I am Graham Stoniewski, and I have been your High Opinions.